Hey YouTube, Chomp here. So I was trying out some new things, see if I can find a new hobby. Working on some more hammer models. Don't do this. This stuff's expensive. And searching around online, trying to save some money, found an ad for this right here, the Pi Touch Display 2. I've done a lot of projects, used a lot of different screens over time with Raspberry Pis for various things. And I hadn't really heard anybody talking about the Touch Display 2, the new one. The old one's been out for years now. It's a low resolution, not really ideal, but it was good for what it was. So I went ahead and bought it, got it here. Still haven't seen too much online, so I figured, hey, let's make a little video of it, show what we got here. So if we're gonna consider this an unboxing, this is all you get. You get the box, that right there, that's your instruction manual. That's all you get. But it's pretty simple. You get the display itself, which we'll look at in a little bit more detail later. But that's what the back of it looks like. Does come with a screen. I don't know if you can, there's a screen protector already on it. Mine was really scratched up for some reason. I don't know why. I'm hoping that's just on the screen protector itself, but it was in the ESD and in the bubble wrap. And then it comes with a little goodie bag down here. You got two different cables. So this will be your mini display cable. This is for the Raspberry Pi 5, and I'm assuming whatever comes next, they're going to stick with these mini ports on the back of them. And then for all the other Pis, and by that I mean the Pi 1 up through the Pi 4, you would get the standard display cable. This is the one that it's been using for a while now. If you're familiar with the other displays, it has the full-size connector on both sides. There's also a little power cable, which this is nice because coming from the original Pi display, you had to provide your own USB power to it. Now this will power everything directly, I guess we should say pass through, from the Pi into the display. So you only need one USB connection going into the Pi itself. And then there's a little baggie. It's got 8 screws. That's what you're going to use to attach the Pi. Because as you can see, there's mounting brackets on the back for where the Pi is going to go if you're using a full-size one. And then that's where your power plug is going to go. That's your display cable. Everything else is inside the little shield here. So if we look at the old Pi display, this one still has my Pi 4 attached to it because this was my open auto experiment, which was pretty fun. Fun little project. You guys want to play around with that? You can see here there's a controller board on the back that is not integrated inside of it like it is on the new one. And there's no direct mounting place for putting the Pi. You can get risers that will go on. You replace these screws with like a riser, kind of like on a motherboard, and then you can sandwich this bad boy on top of it. But at least when I got mine, they didn't come with that. So you typically, from whatever thing I've done in the past, you always end up mounting this in the case that this ends up going into. Another thing you'll notice just at a quick glance is the mounts do not line up. We can see, they're horizontal here, they're vertical here, which means this is not a direct drop-in replacement for places that have, or projects that use the old screen right here. Not only is the dimensions a little bit off, but the mounting brackets aren't the same either. So you can model around it if you're designing something. It wouldn't be too hard. It takes up almost the exact same footprint. I think it's only 1 centimeter difference in height and less than a centimeter in width. But the opportunity for a drop-in replacement is not there with this. Some other differences between the old one. This old one is 800 by 400. It's natively horizontal, which we'll go into that bit in a second. It's fine for gaming. I mean, I've literally used stuff all the way as small as this 3.5. No, this is a 4-inch screen. This 4-inch is also the same resolution, 800 by 400, and this works for gaming. If you're, I think this came out of my attempt to make my own Game Boy. That was fun. It does not work so well for things that use text. So if you're trying to use desktop mode on this, yeah, nope, not gonna work. But even blown out at this size, that low resolution just does not play well with trying to use it for a desktop interface. The new one, which we can see here on the back of the box, it'll show you, this is proper 720p. It's 1280 by 720. One thing that we'll get into a little bit later is this is actually natively portrait. This is not landscape. So When it boots up, it's going to be up and down, not left and right. You can easily rotate that within PiOS or whatever else you're using. That's not a big deal. I'm assuming this came from a tablet. That's probably where they sourced this LCD compared to that one. Pi is claiming that they're going to support this for another 6 years, give or take, I think. 2030 is the minimum manufacturing date for this. So they probably had to go with something a little bit easier to get. My guess is a tablet, because that's about the same size, same right. But yeah, it's 720p is so much better. And we'll demonstrate that once we get into it. Can't really demonstrate off this just by looking at it, but another thing that really annoyed some people about the old one is this does not use square pixels. They're a little bit off shape, whereas on this one, it's almost perfectly square. So on the new one, if you put let's say you put a circle on the screen, it will represent a perfect circle. It won't be slightly distorted like if you're using this. That never really bugged me so much. Everything I did with this was just fine, but it is a difference. The viewing angle is supposedly a little bit better. I forget what it is technically on the old one. I think it's 70 degrees, 75 if you look up the white paper. But this one is supposed to be just under 90. It's not an OLED. It's not anything fancy like that. But for $60, it works. What else do we have to cover here difference-wise? That pretty much sums it up. So we'll go ahead and we'll get this set up here real quick. So let me get this out of the way. Now there are other options. You can obviously use with a Raspberry Pi. You can use a million different things. I've got, all sorts of stuff from that one I was showing you. This is straight off of Temu. And I don't even remember the name of this brand, but it probably changed because they change brand names all the time over there. Everything's made up anyways. This one will support Pi Zeros. It also does HDMI. You can add a header on there for VGA if you really want to go down that rabbit hole. There are other options. The bezels are way smaller on these, but you're going to pay more for these. I think this one, 70-ish bucks off the top of my head. But you're going to pay for that. The Raspberry Pi one, the nice thing about it is everything just works. It's directly supported from the company itself, and it's a good price. $60 shipped to your door. Why not? So we're going to go ahead and plug this up here real quick. We'll do a quick run through. This is a little tight trying to get the power cable in there. I'll just use a spudger to plug it in. And then we are going to, I'm going to run it off a Pi 4. I've already got one set up with a new image. So we're going to install our connector here, which should be, hold on, let me get the Pi to reference myself here. This should be coming up. Nope, this is upside down. So we want the shiny end up when we're putting it in here. Push the retaining bar down. Make sure that's seated in there. Go ahead and slap that Pi up there. Now you'll see I've already got a wireless USB in there. That will be to show the display orientation easier. You can do touchscreen. Oh, that was the other difference I wanted to talk about, the touchscreen. So the new Pi screen will only do 5-point multi-touch. The old Pi screen would do 10-point. I don't know that I ever noticed the difference between the two of them, but that is a difference. So if that applies to you, that's one thing to take note of. Again, shiny side here. We're going to put that facing this way, going into the DisplayPort connector. Push it down in there. Get that retaining bar. That one feels like it went pretty good. And then we can pull up our handy dandy instruction manual, i.e. this picture on the back, because that's all you get. That's really all you need though. And this power port is going to go all the way up here in this farthest corner, plugging into the GPIO. Red on the farthest out. So we're going to line that up just like that, and boom, there we go. We're good to go. Now I also have 3D printed. If you look at, if you know who Jeff Gerling is, and you look him up on YouTube, he's pretty much like the Raspberry Pi god. He made some stands for these, but he didn't have a video. It was the first place I went looking for a video because he's pretty much my go-to guy for Pi stuff. He didn't have a video yet. So go check him out. You're going to learn way more from him than you'll ever learn from me. But he has a link on Printables to where to get these display stands for, so you can put them on there. I'm not going to use it yet because I don't know which way is actually up or down. Like I said, I know it's going to start in portrait mode. But I guess we'll just go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and power this up. I'm just using a standard default Raspberry Pi power plug, which would probably help if I turned it on. There we go. We got our power lights so we can see we're working. Let's go around here, see what's happening. You can really see all those scratch marks in the protector. I'm hoping that's just from the protector. Okay, so she's booting up that way. So we're going to call this up. So I will, while that's doing its boot, like I said, it's a new image, so it's going to take a second. I'll go ahead and get these screwed in so it makes it a little bit easier to see. And then after the cut, I'll move the camera, get down in front of it, and then we'll do a I'll show you where in the OS to change the orientation of the display, so you can, if you want to use it more traditionally in a landscape format, you can do that. I do have the extra screws here, excuse me, just because the I only put 2 on the Pi, just trying to get it connected real quick. It is nice that it comes with these screws too. A lot of Pi stuff will only come with what you need to actually mount the board, not to mount the whole package. So there we go. Interesting. I don't know if it auto detects this. It shouldn't have. It should have been in portrait. I might have grabbed the wrong Pi 4. So I might have already had this one set up for another display. But since we're here, we can go in here. Let me grab my handy dandy mouse. See if my, is it picking it up? Okay. So from here, we can see if we go up here, we go to preferences and we go to screen configuration. This is going to be what you'll know. Obviously all the OSs are going to be different, but using this one, this is where we're at. So we're going to come in here, we're going to right click on the screen, and we are going to go orientation. Yep, this one's already switched. Not entirely sure why. Should be on normal. And then we click apply, and this is what you're going to see. Now I got to move my hand so I can reevaluate my life here. So this is what you're going to see normal. Comes up in portrait mode. Touch screen does work just fine, even using the gloves. But in this scenario, all we would do is we go up here, if I can even see my mouse. And you go to your preferences, your screen orientation or screen configuration. That will bring this up. You're going to right click orientation, and we'll take it back to right. Hit apply, and there we go. I don't know, I must have grabbed the wrong SD card for this one. But that's that. So just as an example real quick here, I'm going to pull up a web page. We'll close this out. It is a Pi 4. This should be the first time that this SD cards are on, but it's probably the second time. So Chrome's going to be a little bit on the slow side. Let's get our keyboard over here. Make sure she's turned on. And yep, there's one search in here. So this must have been the one I did for my last one. That I don't even know if I'm going to release that video. But we're going to search dog, just so we can get an idea for how much you can actually get on this screen at 720p. Like, this is totally usable for a desktop environment. I'm going to go ahead and switch over real quick to the old screen just to see if I can demonstrate how bad that one is. So let's go ahead, and before we do that, I am going to reset my configuration to normal, just so we have less problems. We can see right here, 720 by 1280. We have less problems once we get to the new one. So we'll go there. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. Pull this out. And we are going to most expeditiously jump this over and see if we can go. I don't even know if we can go direct into the old screen just like that. Obviously, there's never been more than one screen, so I have no idea how it's going to handle. Pull that up, get that off, take the power. We'll set that over here. Bring the old one back over, get my open auto out of the way. What am I doing? This is the piece we want. So let's take this. We've got shiny side there. Get this into our display port. Push down on the bar. There we go. Now remember, old screen, which means we need to use a little bit of wizardry here to power with a separate USB port the Pi and the screen at the same time. Let's go ahead and get into here. We're booting up. Get the keyboard, or get the screwdriver out of the way. And carefully, hopefully I have the orientation right here. Might be upside down. Nope, there we go. So as you can see, this one is landscape by default. So we'll wait for this to boot up. I'm assuming it's going to pick it up correctly. That's one perk to using all the official Raspberry Pi accessories, if you want to call them that. Because everything just kind of works together. Okay, so there we are. We're in, and we're connected to Wi-Fi. That's good to know. So you can see already, just looking at the menu here, how much difference that 800 by 480. And trying to view this in person, not watching the camera, is really hard because the viewing angles are kind of crap on this thing. I don't even think it's 70 degrees. But go to screen configuration just to double check ourselves. Yeah, so viewing angles are really bad on this now that I look at it. So orientation is normal, resolution 800 by 480. We're still at 60 hertz though, so no change there. Close that out. And just to give you guys a practical back-to-back of what it looks like going from essentially widescreen 480 over to where we are now. So let's go to Google. Let's search for dog. And this is like, just to give an example of how hard it would be to use. I mean, it's not impossible. Like, first world problems. Let's get real here. But this is just so much less ideal when you're trying to use it for a desktop-based application. So, like, my plan was, this was open auto. Worked fine for that because it's just a big picture of a map or a big interface, I guess we could call it, for changing songs with YouTube Music. My idea was, though, I wanted to do a Steam Deck, or not a Steam Deck, I already have one of those, do a Cyber Deck. Obviously, with that much level of desktop interaction, these screens, which were really common for the Cyber Decks about 5 years ago, they're just not that good anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. We don't need to ramble on forever. If you guys have any comments, whatnot, put them down below. But I think the $60 for the new Pi Display 2, it's totally worth it. If this hasn't shown you enough just what the difference in the desktop experience alone is like, look how chonky that menu is. I don't know what else to show you. So the computer is yelling at me, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and say thanks, guys.